Do you like books? I mean, really, really like books? Then you're in the right place. Each week, your host, Sam Hankin, interviews the best of today's top-selling authors and the up-and-coming superstars of modern literature. This is The Avid Reader. Here is your host, Sam Hankin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Avid Reader, brought to you by Wellington Square Bookshop. Our guest today is Mary Roach, author of Replaceable You, Adventures in Human Anatomy. It's published by W.W. Norton, and it'll be released later this month. Time Magazine has named it, I just saw it today, one of the most anticipated books of fall 2025. For me, it is the most anticipated book since I didn't like the summaries of any of the other books. But the only reason, though. Mary and I have chatted often in the past. We spoke in 2013 about Gulp. Then again, we talked in 2016 about Grunt. And in 2021, we chatted about Fuzz. And of course, there's Stiff, Spook, Bonk, and Packing for Mars as well. Anyway, as Mary and I were just saying, I guess we have a schedule and it's time to do another one. So
it's time for our reunion, Sam.
Whether she likes it or not.
I do like it very much.
That makes me happy. Anyway, so what I was going to say about Replaceable You, once again, as usual, you delve into the anatomy and behaviors of the human body, but in this case, a body that has options for change, improvement, repair. And as we enter the second quarter, amazingly, of the 21st century, we find ourselves poised on the possibility of artificial limbs better than our own and when to get them, the ability to repair severely burned skin, eyes that have seen better days, refocused, hearts and kidneys harvested from the bodies of pigs. The road to these possibilities is paved with odd, humorous, and macabre origins, like from milk-fed breasts, kind of backwards, to metal noses, to teeth hanging painfully from gums, to skin grafted from the bodies of cod. And as usual, the book is filled with wonder, curiosity, and humor. My wife was sleeping the other night while I was sitting in a chair in the corner of the bedroom, laughing out loud periodically. And then she woke kind of irritated and simply said, "Mary Roach," which I guess is a compliment to you.
Yes, glad to be of service. And please tell her sorry about the sleep loss.
No, she was very pissed off. So why can't you read somewhere else?
That's what I like to hear. Not the sleep interruptions, but the out loud laughter.
Yeah, and I always imagine you laughing out loud too, which is good too.
I do sometimes. I do.
So let's go on another adventure, much as we did 12 years ago on the journey through the alimentary canal. And we'll talk to Mary about, here's my alliteration, her peripatetic preparation for the publication of a non-prosthetic summary of what the human body, with the help and research of Mary's newly minted friends, that she acknowledges extensively and humorously at the end, what they can achieve and others like them in the coming 25 years. So again, Mary, thanks for agreeing to put up with me for another round.
My pleasure, Sam.
So great cover,
Yeah.
In a bookstore, I mean, I can say you can't judge a book by its cover, but every single customer who's ever come in does exactly that. And then you have Mr. Potato Head on the title page, which is like a little template for the book.
Yes.
Whose idea was that?
That's my idea. But that Mr. Potato Head, that was not easily gained, that potato head, because it's not the potato head you can buy now. It's a vintage. So that's from the days when you would supply your own potato. And so it's just a little bunch of parts that you'd stick into a potato. And so someone was selling the vintage version on Etsy, I think it was. Maybe it was, probably eBay. It was eBay. And we wanted to use the picture. And she held out. She was like, well, I think I can get more for that. Anyway, we did buy the rights to her. We didn't buy the picture. We just bought the rights to use it. And I love that. I actually thought it'd be fun to put that even on the cover, that potato head picture.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Or real one. Yeah, I mean, I remember I never liked the plastic one. I just liked the real potato one. I even like the smell of it even.
Yeah. The history of that is fun because the what happened is parents would complain because they were finding rotting potatoes like behind the piano, and kids, the parts were really small and kids were swallowing them and poking themselves with them. So it was kind of a nightmare for the company. So eventually they moved on. But yeah, so I went down a Mr. Potato Head rabbit hole for one of my one of my footnotes.
Remember taking the eyes and planting them and hoping, remember you would plant the eye and you put,
Of the real eye of a
yeah,
potato.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Not the plastic eye.
No, the real eye, you
No.
take 3 toothpicks that balance.
Yes. Like you do with an avocado pit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. I know.
Well, so speaking of potatoes, I just realized, good place to start with allografts. You talk, there's a section where you talk about them using potato peels.
I did come across a number of papers. I didn't, again, it's a footnote. So just a passing fancy, but yes, there are a number of papers on PubMed about using potato peels as a kind of biodressing. And apparently the tuber has a lot of excellent health promoting qualities, if you can believe the papers. They were, I think they were possibly coming out of China. So not that that means anything positive or negative. Just not familiar with the institutions that were doing the potato peel work, but seemed like a bargain basement version of some of the very, very expensive biodressings that are used today.
Yeah, there was a lot of things in the book that are kind of serendipitous, like kind of like vulcanizing rubber, just going, holy mackerel, I can't believe it's doing that. Like when they were pumping bodies full of milk, and then you realize it's like saline solution. It's not the milk, it's the idea of increasing volume.
Right, exactly. But initially, the thought was it's something in milk, that was this fabulous substance. And if somebody was bleeding out, you could just, get a cow and they were bringing the cows into the medical office or the patient's room. And because it had to be fresh milk. So they were taking it right from the teat, injecting it in the patient. And my God, they had survived. And they were, I think it was I want to say like 1878 or something. There was like 10 different papers on milk transfusion. Some of the medical folks were like, it has to be cow milk, and others were advocating goat milk. And then it kind of just faded away. And somebody did point out, could just be the volume, nothing really in the milk itself. Yeah.
It's funny because that reminded me about goats, about the one doctor who used dogs because he really was so irritated by goats on the table.
Pigs. No, pigs on the, yeah. The pigs, Pavlov preferred to use dogs. And that was his reason. He said, all pigs are hysterical. You put them on the table and they're screaming. And this, I have been in a lab where they were bringing a pig in, and who can blame the pig really? But they are big and they are loud. And yeah, you could understand why Pavlov didn't like to work with them in the lab. Yeah. And vice versa.
Yeah. I bought a mini pig that turned out not to be a mini pig. I didn't realize that's what they did. And then finally we were able to give it away, but yeah, he was eventually, she was very loud, Rosie, but that was because I didn't spay her. I didn't.
So did you get a lot of mini pigs in that case?
No, not unless she had bred with my dog who loved her, but they would sleep together, curled up with each other.
Oh.
But back to you. I'll tend to do this. So
no, let's just talk about your pig. I'd rather hear about I'm tired of listening to me. Let's talk about your mini pig.
We should just both leave. Well, I was gonna say, I know what I was gonna say because it reminds me of my uncle. Talk about how it was a routine just to take all your teeth out. And the one interesting story about Paul McCartney.
Yeah, there was and it went on for quite some time, 1940s, 50s, 60s. And even in centuries past, there was this craze in the middle of the 1900s for if their teeth were either they looked bad or there was a few decaying teeth, there was this trend, this fad for take them all out and get dentures, and then you'll have like perfectly white, straight teeth, and you'll never have to go back to the dentist, and you just get it all done. It'll be cheaper. It'll be fabulous. And even, and I went through, there's like 1,000 people on Reddit replying to this chain, no, it's
Oh,
saying their grandparents had done this, and one of them mentioned Paul McCartney, and I looked into this, and in fact, on Fresh Air, Terry Gross was interviewing him, and he mentioned that his dad, he said, when you turn 21, lad, you'll want to get all your teeth out, get them replaced with dentures. Yeah, he didn't, but that was kind of the rage. People were doing that. It was being given as a wedding gift, matrimonial teeth or matrimonial dentures. It was something, or turning of age at age 21. It was a kind of an amazing trend, and really speaks to, I think, people's kind of wish to believe that technology and science is going to always give you something better.
yeah.
Sometimes it does, but very often it's something that, while it's okay, it's nothing like what you were born with. So, yeah, and the teeth, and dentures, even if you had dentures, your gums tend to get resorbed. So you're going to have to get them. You're going to have to go back to the dentist. It wasn't true that you would just have one go and be done with it.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember my mother and father on their bedside tables had glasses that they would put their plates, as they
Yep.
call them, at night.
Yep.
So weird seeing them without the teeth. Something I couldn't take that. It was just,
my mother-in-law she's 101,
holy moly.
and she has, it's either a partial or whole upper, but she will never, no one has ever seen her without it. She will not be seen without it. I don't know what, I guess late at night, she takes it out, she cleans it, and then she puts it in the morning and comes out of her room. But you will never see that woman without her teeth in.
My tooth story is my uncle Martin was my dentist. He was a gambler, and whenever he needed money, I had a cavity. And so I
Yes.
had 13 mercury fillings still in my mouth. And I think also he might have taken advantage of certain women who he was treating at the time under anesthesia.
Yeah.
It didn't, Martin.
Yeah, I don't know whether I do know that I have a ton of mercury fillings from when I was a kid. And I don't know if old Doc Harold was cashing in and drilling holes where there were no holes. I'll never know. I mean, I ate a lot of sweets as a kid, so maybe it's my fault, but I'm a little suspicious of old Doc Harold.
I didn't need my tonsils taken out or my adenoids. There was no reason to do it. It's just that's what they did.
That's what they did. That was such a fad. Remember that? And kids would go, but you get to eat ice cream afterwards.
Exactly.
Like,
Then I couldn't eat it. It just
yeah.
didn't work. I thought it was going to be great, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah. My tonsils were spared. I didn't have those out. But that was funny. Everyone was getting their tonsils. It was the thing, like getting all your teeth pulled and getting full plate of uppers.
It was a time when they were picking the safety patrol for my elementary school, and I missed getting on the safety patrol, although I would have been horrible because I was in the hospital.
But, because you just gotten your tonsils out?
That, and they were picking at the same time I was in the hospital, so
yeah,
I wouldn't have been good
though. No, me neither. I'm not attentive.
Yeah, you're actually, that would have been horrible. Yeah, I probably saved some lives that I was in there. When I read your books, there's always things, and I would like to save it for the end, but it's like you said about the giant inflatable colon. Once you realize there is one, you're going to go to that place. And even like little things, like when you talked about the masticator, I know as soon as you realized there was a masticator, you had to write about it. It's just
yes. Why do you think there's a whole chapter on teeth? Because of the masticator. So I came across the masticator, and I'm like, this will be. It is in fact the opening paragraph of the book.
I know you so well. It's just like I can see the words that are your trigger warnings.
I'm so predictable.
Just like well, anyway, I guess you better explain what a masticator was.
I guess I should. Okay, so yeah, dentures have been around for hundreds of years, but they were particularly awful in the 1700s when they first started making them, and they didn't work very well at all. They were kind of like wigs for the mouth. was purely cosmetic. So in Victorian households, people would, before a dinner party, before the guests came, they would eat on their own in a room, and they would do it by, they had a handheld device called a masticator, which kind of looked like garden pruners, but it had a different thing on the end, kind of just sort of mashed and sliced at the same time, and it kind of smushed up their food so that they could then shovel it into their mouth. So it was basically for chewing outside the mouth. And then they would put in their fairly attractive but not very useful at all teeth and go out to the dinner party and not masticate.
Yeah, it's like just basically Gerber's baby's food at the end. Although it must have been tough.
Yeah.
They had like 14 courses. That must have been horrible.
Very time consuming, but who knows how many of those courses those people partook of. The guests maybe were having all 14, and the people who were missing all their teeth or many of their teeth would maybe just have a side of roast hare or something, whatever the Victorians were dining on.
One of the things I noticed in this book, and I guess I did in the past, but maybe I forgot, in addition to your wonderful sense of humor, which is what I always saw it as a bookseller. When you make someone laugh, they turn the page. You cannot not turn the page if you're laughing. It's just one of those.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yes. It's like
Yeah.
in the iron lung and you're trying to breathe against the machine. You gotta go. But the thing I noticed in this book were there were 3 off the top of my head that I can think of, very poignant moments. One was when you were having dinner with the lovely woman and Dr. Goverman. Goverman?
Yes, Goverman.
Yeah, and the husband, and she was horribly burned.
Yes.
And she was facing the restaurant. She was very happy. She was wearing the short sleeve shirt. I'm not going to say why you weren't wearing a short.
Yeah.
But the thing was, what was poignant was the way you described government and she laughing while the husband was quiet, and you were trying to determine whether he was just a quiet man or it was just too much.
Yeah.
And you thought it was probably the latter.
Yeah. He for months after that burn, she was on so many drugs that she was kind of out of it. She doesn't remember most of it. He remembers it because he was afraid he was going to lose her. And all of the surgeons and doctors, except Dr. Goverman, made it sound as though they didn't think she was going to make it either. And it was a horrible thing for him. And she's a very upbeat, very dynamic person. And I don't think she was putting on an act for me. That's just her. But he definitely had been affected by that. And I wanted to kind of honor that and put that in the book.
You did in 3 other ways too. First of all, you said she was beautiful, and I recognized that she was, the way you described it.
Yeah.
And you also said the way he went into the hospital and he would say, "How is she?" And they would say, "She's very sick." And that and then the fact that he told her it's just skin. I love that.
Yeah, that was so sweet. He said, "It's just skin. I don't love you for your skin. I love you because you're you." And she said, I don't know what she said. And he said, "Are you still you?" She said, "I'm still Diana." He said, "Then I still love you." Oh my God, it makes me want to cry.
Movie is like love story.
I know.
Or something.
I know. Yeah.
But that was, I was interested that you have been in other books, right?
What do you mean? I have been in other.
Okay, well, the other one, and then you can tell me. The other one is when you were holding the beating heart outside.
Yeah.
And you felt not a kinship, but your heart was beginning to syncopate with it. And you said you felt a mixture of awe and tenderness.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, "Are you done, Mary?" I can just you and
yeah.
And it was poignant. Why was it poignant? Why it is, but why?
Well, I think the things that Jerry said about his wife are, like you said, love story, poignant. I mean, anybody reads that, and anybody who's been in love knows what's that is like to fear that you're going to lose the person that you love, and for her in turn to fear that she was going to lose him because of how disfigured she was at that point. So that one's fairly transparent. But the heart in the hand, that one kind of came out of nowhere, just because a heart outside of a body, you would think it would be something like along the lines of a horror film, a slasher film, so a heart ripped from a body and still beating. It's kind of, but to me, it was the opposite. It wasn't gory or scary or creepy. It was so human, and I kept it in my hand because I wanted to see, would it sort of start, was my heart going to start to syncopate with that heart? And because I thought maybe it was, so I'm holding it for a while, and they had to ask to get it back. But yeah, I didn't really expect that. And I like when reporting goes in a direction that you don't expect.
But then you turn it right back because the resident who's left there admits that it is kind of poey.
Yeah. I like that he used the word poey. Yeah, because it's just hanging there beating, and he's there alone all night with this heart in a dark room beating.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is pretty poey. That's poey.
And the third poignant one, and we can go back to the funny stuff, is you in an iron lung for 5 minutes. And the thing I liked about that particular incident was the way you described the post-it notes, and the post-it notes were his relationship with his wife. That was almost made me cry. And then the fact that he said, I made it through a week without weeping.
Yeah, very, that again, I figured, well, I'm reporting a chapter on positive and negative pressure breathing, these two very different ways of using a machine to breathe for you. And I was all focused on kind of the technical and the biological aspects of that and of breathing, and then I get there and there's like, there's a guy there and he's lost his wife and he cared for her in this intimate way, like taking her, literally lifting her out of off the platform of the iron lung and using a pulley on the ceiling to put her over in the hospital bed. And that just, it was this very strong bond that they had. He really loved her so much, and she had died. And I didn't know any of that. So when I got there, and he wanted to talk about her a lot, he wanted to tell her story. I couldn't put into the chapter nearly as much about her as he wanted. He wanted to tell their story, and I tried to compromise. Because I wanted to make room for that, because that's what it's about. It's the human beings that are using these machines. It's not so much about the machines themselves, even though they're interesting.
I think part of the reason why the poignancy exists is because it's always involved with a juxtaposition, and it goes back to that meal that you had with the woman in government, where she says, without any, I don't know, sorrow, regret, she says it was a beautiful day in March.
Yeah.
And and it just resonated with me so well, because sometimes when things are going great, I worry about, oh, they're not going to be going great sometime.
Yes. You're like, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, or even the first shoe to drop. Like, things are going so well, I'm so happy. When is something going to come along and step on it? I'm the same way. And when she said that, it was a beautiful day. And just to go from this moment of, I'm in the backyard, it's a sunny day, I'm here with my partner who I love, and suddenly I'm on fire. I see that I'm on fire.
And the fact that she still has the ability through all this to say it was a beautiful day, that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, that she remembered that detail and shared that detail. Yeah.
So what was I going to say? I was going to talk about the colonoscopy, but why was I going to talk about that? Oh, I know what it was, because I wanted to do something funny again. And you said the doctor who had like put the tin box for the colostomy, and it works really well and can be removed at your pleasure.
Oh yeah. This was in, I don't know, the Lancet or some I don't know which New York medical journal from the 1800s, I think it was. And he was describing, yeah, that it was a successful surgery to create an artificial anus. In other words, a stoma through which your waste would come rather than through your anus. And he described this box that was put in place and could be changed at pleasure. And I'm like, I don't think ever before or since have the words "at pleasure" ever been asked to bend that far.
Yeah.
Like,
All right, I can jump from one to another easily. Speaking of bend, I actually did follow your instructions and laid my hand flat and lifted my middle finger. So speaking of bending, let's go through that thing because that was really weird.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's kind of the thing that cemented the book idea when I heard, because that was very early on. And this woman who I had called because I thought maybe I was going to write about fat for a book, which I'm not, and I never will because I don't want to write about weight loss. But she, in the course of the conversation, she, I don't know how this came up. This always happens with me. The conversation goes off the trolley tracks, and she mentioned there that this surgeon had reconstructed a man's penis using the man's own middle finger, and I, of course, am picturing the entire finger transplanted as is, with a nail and everything, able to move and bend and beckon. And I was like, this has to be in the book. I am going to visit that surgeon. I will write about this. As it turns out, of course, the finger was not used in that way, but it did create a penis that you could bend up. And I saw the photographs, and it was pretty sturdy too, because in the photograph, a ceramic water pitcher was hanging off the bent up penis. And
I used to be able to do that.
Did you now?
Well, the thing about that one is you did your stealthy, he didn't answer you and you just snuck in, and that lovely woman, what was her name?
Nana.
Yeah.
Nana. I just went there because I knew even if he wasn't there, and he wasn't, but Nana was, and she said, we can go in his office. I will show you pictures. And that was just fine. So, when in doubt, just if people present obstacles to you and say, no, you can't come, just show up. Just show up.
Plus you have your wingman. Is it Steph? Is your wingman?
Steph. Yes, Steph.
And
yeah.
She makes all these offhand remarks that are funnier than what you say.
Totally. All the best lines are from Steph.
Yeah,
I take her with me whenever I can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good asset to have in life.
She is a good asset. I'm going to see her on Friday. She's in town. I'll tell her she's a good asset.
Okay. Well, speaking of, not that we were strictly speaking of penetration, I was thinking of the finger and the penetration, but I never knew, when you're talking about trans women, I never knew that there was even the option, and you kind of implied that doctors didn't tell women that there was the option. They weren't interested in penetration. They weren't interested.
Right. I had dinner with Maurice Garcia, who is the director of the Cedars-Sinai Transgender Surgery and Health Center in LA. And I specifically wanted to talk about a procedure wherein part of the intestine is used to create a vagina. And this is usually a secondary operation. Like the more standard operation didn't work. There were issues. And so this is an alternative surgery. And I was just fascinated that you could recruit a part of the body for a purpose completely different than the purpose for which it evolved. Like, here's the intestine. It's designed for digestion, and we're going to create a vagina out of it. So that was just fascinating to me. And he was fascinating. Where were we going with penetration? Yeah. So
I want that.
Yeah. He said that if you're going to have problems with this, because first of all, there's the creation of the vagina, but also vulvoplasty, which is creating a vulva, the exterior of the female genitalia. And he was saying trans women, it's important to look normal and to look female, and they might not necessarily want to do the second portion, which is creating the vagina. And he said for some of them, Penetration isn't that important. Either they don't have partners or they're fine with anal sex, whatever it is, that is an option for them. And the complications, he said, if there's going to be complications, they will be with the vagina, not the vulva. So think about it. It's an option. And apparently there's plenty of surgeons who don't present that option, just on the assumption that, well, everybody needs penetration, right? It's just kind of a
it's a guy thing. It's just
a hetero guy thing about vaginal penetration. Anyway, so that was a fascinating conversation.
That was another funny one, because you kind of read between the lines on this, but you also thank him in the acknowledgments. But it's like, we'll talk about the medical word of the day, and then him saying,
he was talking about, because I at one point I was thinking that there are certain advantages to using the intestine, because the colon, it secretes a mucus, the colon does. So I thought, well, that could be good. It's like, if you're going to use it as a vagina, it's kind of like creates its own lube, right? That seems great. And he was like, no, Mary, because it's not just when you're aroused, it's kind of all the time, and it's kind of thicker and more kind of a little bit clotted. And I went, grumous, which is this word that I learned when I was doing medical dictionary word of the day. And he goes, okay, grumous. Mary, what kind of physician did you say you were? And I told him in the email what I was doing. I'm working on a book. He knew this, but he apparently didn't remember the email. But so I had to then say, well, I'm not I'm not an MD. I don't even have a BS. I've got a liberal arts degree. I'm just, I'm just learning here. But I did know the word grumous.
And the thing is, where you bury the punchline is also really funny, because you don't say he was angry. You don't say he was interested or curious. You just say you didn't really know what his reaction was.
Well, he didn't say anything, but it's because some bread and pesto had just been set on the table, and he was distracted, so he just like went into the pesto, was like laying it on the bread like a bricklayer. He's like, sorry, I haven't eaten all day, because he's a surgeon,
that whole interspersing of that meal and the Chianti and
the waiter who would come up at the most inopportune moments where anyway.
Yeah, that was a very interesting. It was really good the way you slid both sides of it into that. So thinking about the colon and also removing that much of it to create the vulva just seems like it would create so many other problems. Is it really worth it?
Well, I asked him that, and he said the amount that they remove is not enough to create chronic, because what you'd worry about is diarrhea. Like, not as much liquid is going to be absorbed now,
right?
Because you don't have as much colon. But my brother had Crohn's, and he had a length of colon, and my mother did too, a length removed, and you can spare a certain amount of colon without running into real chronic issues, apparently. I don't think that anyway, that was Dr. Garcia's take on it, was that it was a workable loss.
Yeah, that reminds me, and all these things, like I say, continue to lead to another chapter. But the ostomates and the giant inflatable colon, talk about the differences, and then we can talk into the actual day and the race and all that. But talk about the differences between, because you talked about waste drying out, and that's a good thing, about the difference between a colonoscopy and ileostomy. Why there's the downside.
Yeah, right. Ostomy is the umbrella term. Ileostomy is up in the short intestine, and colostomy, not colonoscopy. That's a scoping thing that we all enjoy at our age. A colostomy is when the opening is further along the gastrointestinal tract. So, and depending on how far along it is, it also depends on how liquidy the material that comes out, and that determines what kind of system, what kind of pouch you're using to collect the waist. So, and that was all I thought fascinating. I really didn't know anything about it. I was interested in the ways that the United Ostomy Associates of America, I think it was United Ostomy Associations of America, they work hard to break down the stigma of ostomy. And that's something I was interested in. And the guy who runs it, the public affairs guy, said, well, you should come out to one of our 5K runs, which ostomates, and an ostomate is just a word for somebody who's had that surgery, who has an ostomy.
It was good the way you did stoma and stigma and the root.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Stoma is the little, the opening. The opening kind of looks like they call it a rosebud sometimes. And that's where the material comes out. And yeah, it's a really crazy stigma attached to it. But I think in the time, actually, since I started this book and now, a lot has gone on TikTok with a lot of ostomates, people who've had ostomies who are very open about it. Like, here's my bag, here's how I change it, here's what it's like. And this is, when you think about it, it's just something you get used to, like maybe an adult diaper or a tampon or a maxi pad or false eyelashes, something that it feels weird and seems weird initially, and then you get so used to it that you don't even notice it. Did I just compare having an ostomy bag to wearing false eyelashes? That's not right.
Well, you did it in the book too, with the woman had trusses and the ostomy.
Well, yeah, but I didn't mean that it's like the same thing. I just was trying to make the example of how you stop being aware of it.
No, and that was another part of the book that I found. I mean, here we are sitting here, you and I just have first world problems.
Right.
And another poignant thing was when the woman in the iron lung said that it was the most peaceful feeling. She was happy to be in it. And I couldn't even envision that response.
Yeah. She said, I mean, she didn't, because she's dead now, but her caregiver said, because I said, what was that like for her? Because some of the memoirs talked about the great relief people had when suddenly they're in this tube and now they could breathe, and they were struggling so hard before and thought they were going to die. And she said, I said, what was it like for Mona? Because Mona, the woman who used this iron lung that I tried out, she used it to sleep in. She wasn't in all day. And she said, well, Mary, it's like this. At the end of the day, she was so happy to get in it. And in the morning, she was so happy to get out of it. So, you can't really compare, unless you're someone who's struggling to get enough oxygen and to breathe. It's hard to understand what a relief and how grateful you are to that machine. But that doesn't mean it's something the average person wants to take on, that's for sure.
Yeah, and when you go back to the 5K and the booths and the pouches hanging and all that, I'm thinking, oh, how horrible that would be. And it's not, because they suffered so much before.
Yes, you can only look at it in the context of what they are now relieved of. Right. So, and you hear stories about people who were afraid to leave the house, who couldn't travel, who had a lot of discomfort, and that's gone. And so it's so much better for them. So, but it takes a while for somebody to come around to that, because it is it's surgery and it's shit. Let's be real. And people, I'm like, the whole idea of like, oh, your shit's going to come out of your body too soon. It's like, well, shit's going to come out one way or the other. So it's like, and nobody's going to see it either way. So what, so what?
I can see handling it. It's just, it always has been in my mind, the connection. So describe the two different kinds, and especially why one is okay down at the bottom, at the ileostomy, it's not, because like you said, it hasn't dry. It hasn't.
Yeah, it's more liquidy up at the top, which means it's kind of coming out more or less all the time. So you have to change the bag more often. And those people tend to use a 2-part system. So you have this base patch, and then the bag attaches and detaches from it. So you're not constantly ripping off this patch, because you don't want to be, because it's a pretty strong adhesive that's going on there. You don't want it slipping. So it's strong adhesive, and you don't want to be tearing the whole thing off, which you would have to do with a one-piece bag, which people use for further on down the intestines, in the colon, further down the colon. So yeah, there's different systems for different consistencies of waste, and there's like 1,000 different systems, pouches, items that you can, and accessories. It's kind of an interesting world. It was for me an interesting world to
The other
step
thing you
into.
talk about several times, you talk about in China, some of the labs, the things they developed that are like, Alexa type bags, you can ask anything of it, or it's,
Oh, the artificial,
yeah.
yeah, the artificial anal sphincter. Yeah, yeah, there was this one university that had published all of these papers on artificial anal sphincters, not a bag, not an external system, but something you would implant inside the body that I mean, I'd have to read the passage aloud, but the technology sounded incredible, but not a single one
Yeah.
ever made its way into any human body.
Like the way you say, none of them got out of the lab.
No, there was one that was describing it was attached to a pig colon, but I didn't get the sense that the pig was part of the picture.
That was funny on your trip to China. But one thing that had nothing to do with the book really was the guy with the electric car, rather than recharging it, backing in like a little CD player. One battery goes out, the other battery goes in.
Awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cars, I know, the cars that I drove in now, going forward a couple of years, all the electric cars here are starting to look like that, with that huge sort of sunroof. That the whole roof is that kind of adjustable shade sunroof.
Right.
That, and I'm like, yeah, that's not new. I saw that in China 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny when you travel. Like we just came back from Switzerland, and all the trains are wonderful and they're always on time. One train was 1 minute and 17 seconds late, and there were 3 different conductors and on the intercom apologizing to me.
Unbelievable.
And
I
then
know.
in Japan, there was one train that was 59 seconds late. I just read it, and the owner of the company apologized to every passenger on the plane.
I know. Yeah. This country. It
I know.
has some problems.
Well, you can't even begin. But
No.
sometimes it feels like when you come back, and especially in Philadelphia, where they're getting rid of all the trains, and I don't know how people are going to get to work or to the gates of the stadium, but you feel like you're in a second world country when you come back here.
You do.
Into Germany or Switzerland. Anyway.
Yeah. No, same here. And it's this death spiral. Fewer and fewer people are riding public transport because it's so few and far between. And then because it's so lame, nobody rides it anymore. Now it's to the point where I don't even know how they're so far in debt, the transit companies here.
Well, yeah. And also getting further afield is that we have the same track. That would be a good book. We have the same track that was laid in 1880. Whereas in Japan, they have track that cambers around the side so the train can go really fast and camber. If the train goes really fast here, even though we have them, it'll go right off the track because it can't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, let's go back to the colon. So the problem is when I interview someone, I've read the book and I love the book and I talk about it, but no one else knows because they haven't read the book. So I don't really give a summary of what the book's about. So tell the way I look at it, the only reason you went out there was because you heard there would be, you say, if anyone knows me, just tell that. If anyone knows me.
Oh, you mean the from the ostomy chapter? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm like, what am I going to do with this chapter? And I got on the phone with the public affairs person for the United Ostomy Associations of America. And I said, I was kind of brainstorming what could be some settings for this chapter. How could I do it? And he said, well, you could come out to one of the 5K runs. There's one happening in Arizona, and the giant inflatable colon will be there. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. And if you know my books, if you know me, that's the moment where I'm like, sign me up, Ed.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
I'm
like
going to Arizona.
like the masticator squared.
The giant inflatable colon. It is giant, and you can walk right under it.
The
And then
funny,
I got excited about, because I went and I looked up, you can buy a giant inflatable colon. You could have it in your backyard if you want, but it's a lot of money. But okay, and the big ones, they've got all the different diseases. They've got polyps, and they've got Crohn's, and they've got all that, they're showing you all the things that could go wrong. But they have a small one for, if you don't have the money to spend, you can get one that's about the size of a mattress. And I was like, it's inflatable. I could use it as an aero bed. And wouldn't that be cool? But it has polyps and things on it, so it'd be kind of uncomfortable.
no, it wouldn't work. The other thing that was funny was how you get out there and there's no colon and you're going, oh, what did I do? And then the woman runs up and she goes, I'm
the colon. Because I went to she and I had showed up at the wrong entrance to the park. And I was like, you'd think I'd be able to see a giant inflatable colon, and we got to be in the right park. And she goes, I'm the colon. And she's got it all behind her in a trolley. I'm the colon.
Yeah, and the thing about that whole section again, as we talked about, is that everyone, yeah, you could, like you said, you could say anything. You can talk to anybody about it. You thought you were being awkward when you said, I think you said, how do you run? But you realize anything's okay. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, it was something like, oh, I said to a woman, I was standing around the product table. I said, "Are you running today?" And I was realized that's a really awful thing to say to someone with a ileostomy. But she didn't care. She didn't. Well, first of all, I don't even think she took it that way. And if she had, I mean, no, at a gathering like that, nobody cares. It's fabulous. Everything's just what it is.
Yeah, and then the woman with the tresses laps you immediately.
She did, yeah. She was amazing. She took first place in the female ostomate division. She was something. Yeah, I was walking. It was a hot morning.
There was a lot of people in there. And the nice thing is, in the little parenthetical thing you do in the acknowledgments where you thank them and thank them for the specific thing they did. But one of the funniest ones was, and we can go into the pig farm that's supposed to be inviolate and clean as a whistle and what you saw there. But I like Yi Wang because he says to you when you run out of questions, he goes, good, don't waste my time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It was actually, it was not Yi, but the other guy, which doesn't matter, Xiaoping Deng. Yeah. And I said, yeah, I was like, good, don't waste my time. I forget how it was, but he was very
Excited.
Delightfully. Yeah. He had this kind of staccato way of talking. Yeah.
But yeah, so you went out there in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing there at first. And
Yeah. I flew all the way to Chengdu, China to not see pigs. Well, I saw them, but I saw them on the control center. It was fine, but it was stupid of me not to realize, okay, this is a hyper clean, actually super clean is the technical term. This is a facility. It's a super clean pigsty, because these are pigs that they can't have any viral or bacterial disease, because you're going to take their organs and put them in a person. So they've got to be sterile. And so me, a walking pile of bacteria and fungi and all the other things humans have all over them, they're like, no, you're not going in there. Absolutely not. The people who care for those animals, they've been in quarantine, and they're they stay for 3 months without going out of the facility. So it's a very, very clean facility. However, there's still pigs, and you look on the video and there's like, oh, there's some pig shit on the floor of the pigsty, because you can't edit in the ability to use a toilet. The pig is not going to use a toilet.
First, I thought it was incredibly clean because you said the floors were shining, but then you said they were shining because it was just pee.
because one of the pigs had just peed. There were slats, so most of the pee went down the slats. But anyway, it was very, very clean urine and very, very clean pig shit because they irradiate the food twice. So some very, very sterile pig shit that was on the floor there.
And they give you miniature. They gave you the miniature pigs, but
Yeah.
I like the fact that they all look the same with that. Is it a black, like a black kind of collar look?
They had, yeah, these particular pigs, they had, it almost looked like a Batman mask over the top half of their face and head, and then a little black ring on their tush. They're very cute. And they gave me these little plastic miniature versions, and they are miniature pigs. And so he said, when he handed it to me, he said, miniature pigs. And I thought for a second that they'd reduced pigs to the size of a hamster. And that this, but in fact, he had given me miniature pigs.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But when you talk about like the rustic aspect of it, we haven't talked about the eye yet, but it was interesting when you talked about the cataract surgeons who where the truck drivers make more money than the women, and they were all women, and also the wooden table that had the carved in it. I had no talk about that whole process.
Well, yeah, I was in Mongolia reporting on it was an organization called Orbis International, and people have heard about eye surgeons that go around and do surgery for people, but what they do is train the surgeons and help equip the operating rooms, which is so much more impactful because if you train a surgeon, now they can treat dozens, hundreds of people instead of some American surgeon coming and doing 10 surgeries in a day. So I traveled with them, and the surgical procedure they were doing, it was amazing. I mean, it was a cataract surgery where they were replacing the lens, not the same way that they do it now here with, it's called phacoemulsification, and it requires a lot of equipment and quite an outlay of money. But there you can do it with simple tools. The only thing plugged into the wall was the microscope that they were looking through, the lighting for that, and the bed was just really essentially a wood table. It wasn't, you couldn't adjust it up or down, and it didn't have a big pad on it. It was just like a wood table, but they were able to do these surgeries. Similarly, the person the next day when they took off the bandages was able to see 20/20, and that it was just pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, there were two aspects of it that were interesting. One, as I said, the surgeons are women, not because it's very
Yes,
but because they're cheap. And secondly, the woman who the next day she goes, I think that's a 3. And she wasn't excited about the fact that she
yeah. These are the people that were being operated on. The ones that I met, they were nomadic. They have a hard life. I mean, they've got livestock that they're raising. They're milking the sheep, the cows. They're making the cheese and all the different products to keep the stuff from rotting. So they're making all this stuff, and there's no indoor plumbing and a lot. They're living in yurts or gurs, as they call them, and so they're pretty tough people. So I thought it was going to be like the reveal on a reality TV show where they're going to be going like, oh my God, I could see, and hugging the doctor. But they're just like, yeah, okay. One guy got he was like looking around going, and he goes, it was translated for me. He goes, it's like HD TV. He was like, look, you could tell he was pretty thrilled, but nobody's like screaming and laughing and carrying on. They're pretty stoic there.
If you go through the entire, if you go through chapter by chapter, and you can get a pretty good idea. Your titles are, sometimes humorous, but the subtitle explains, like the iron lung or whatever.
Yeah.
Give me some skin. So if you look at all the chapters, and I enjoyed them all equally, which one to you was either, as I've been saying, the most poignant or the most impressive or the most something? Which one was the most amazing for you, if any?
Which one was the most amazing? I think that the 2 days I spent in the burn unit were the most memorable, and also just the people that I met, not just the patients, but that the surgeon, Jeremy Goverman, was, because when you treat somebody who's had a burn on 90% of their body or 70% of their body, you're going to be with that person for a long time. It's a lot of surgeries, because the things happen where the body tries to close the holes by contracting and pulling, and so you've got to release. They do all these releases, and then they're taking grafts from different parts of the body, and then that part has to heal, and you may use that part again. I mean, then like dozens of procedures. So that's a relationship that surgeon has with his patients, and it was very moving. I didn't know anything about burns, and I didn't know anything about burn recovery, and that it was just astounding to me what people go through and the dedication. And there are some cool new things out there, and there's also a lot of hype around things that are also out there. But I guess that chapter was kind of the most, kind of stayed with me the most. Maybe Mongolia was a heck of a lot of fun.
It's funny because that chapter, if there's a hero to this book, it seems like it's Goverman to me.
I think so too. Yeah.
And I like the way like he's working away and you're bugging him, but he still answers. He turns and answers you, and
Yeah. And also I think also the guy in Mongolia, I kept, he was like a captive, a prisoner to my questions, because we had a 7-hour drive across Mongolia, and I'm sitting next to him in the car, and he's trying to take a nap, and I won't leave him alone. But yeah, Jeremy Goverman, he's trying to do his surgery, and and I'm always asking questions.
good.
That's my job.
Yeah, it's everybody's job in life. Get as much information as you can while you're here. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, information is good.
That's what you do. And the cool thing about what you do is, like you say, you're not a doctor. You're curious. And so you learn a lot of stuff. And you have with these 8 books.
I have.
The other, before we get to my conclusion and your conclusion, the mesh that comes, the graphs that come
Yes.
and they're refrigerated and says do not microwave. And who makes them, and how do they make them, and where does it come from? I didn't understand that at all.
It's from cadavers.
But they have to.
They take skin. They take a block of skin, a foot or more long by 8 or 9 inches wide. They remove that in a piece, and then you can purchase it, and then it's put through. The mesh is created. There's a machine in the OR where you can create the mesh, and that makes it expandable. Like a baby gate.
Yeah.
It cuts it like that so that you can pull it wide, and you can cover more of the burn. So and then there's products that you can kind of use to fill in. You can take some of the person's skin and grow it out, and you can, there's actually spray on skin where it's cells from the person's skin that you're then sort of putting in between the mesh. But the mesh is, the cadaver grafts are temporary. They're like a bio dressing. They don't become permanent. They kind of slough off. Ultimately, it's a person's own skin that you're going to put on there. But sometimes you don't have anything left. If it's 90% burn, there isn't anything on the patient that you can use for an autograft, which is the best thing, to take the person's own skin.
Yeah, I didn't realize when you talk about the difference between 2nd and 3rd degree burns, I didn't realize that the one thing the 3rd degree burn doesn't have is the ability to regenerate.
Right. Normally a burn 1st and 2nd degree, it will regenerate. There's still the lower layers of the skin are there, and they'll regrow from below. But with the 3rd degree burn, that's all gone, and so the body tries to pull together to close the wound, and that creates these distortions, like an eye that is permanently open, or your arm, now you're elbow won't open up. You can't extend your arm. So they have to go through and release those contractures. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that goes to where I thought would be a good place to end, which is the way you end the book too, is, you know, what you realize as you go through this is the body is like, okay, as you say, yeah, 50 years, there'll be all this stuff, but it's not going to ever replace this, even though the book is titled Replaceable You. It's
Yeah.
It's too, like, it's even the contracture itself is like the body saying, look, I really am tired of this. I can't do more, but I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah. This is all I can do. I know it's not ideal, but this is all I can do. I'm going to close this hole up for you. It is. It's, yeah, the body is, the book should be called Irreplaceable You, but that doesn't have the same ring to it. So, yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, are you, I wouldn't say I'm a spiritual person, but things like this, you know, and I don't believe in intelligent design. And I know we've had an enormous amount of time in order for this to have come to where we are now. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I like you, the more I learn about the human body, it's, or any animal's system, it's just like, wow, that evolved. Like there was a mutation for that and that and that and that, and then you ended up with this. And I think, God, how is that even possible? But the alternative, like that there's some being who is like that dialed down into these cellular specifics, like I'm like, that's a weird God. How would he know? Like, how the hell do they figure that out? That's even weirder to me. So it's two things that make no sense to me. You know, it's two things that are kind of inconceivable, but you know, the evolution for me, at least I can kind of get a sense of like, yeah, could see how that's happening.
You have 500 million years, although they've disproved the theory that if you put an infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number, I'll type the Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't know who disproved it.
Somebody did disprove that. Yeah. I never bought that, but I would have loved to watch it for a while.
That's, you and I are
a webcam. Put a webcam in that room with the monkeys and the typewriters. I want to watch.
I want to see the books that they would come out with that weren't the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, same. I would read even any page of actual words that in any language that they came up with. I want to read it.
You know, they would come up with the topic of cancer and port noise complaint. Well, I think that's a good way to end it, about how wondrous this thing is. And even though we can have Blade Runners and we can have new eyes, it's never going to be.
It's not gonna be 100%. Pretty close. I mean, there's some things that are pretty close.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. They're pretty good, but they ain't as good as what you started out with. Not yet, anyway.
No, well, we'll see what happens. Or I won't see what happens. Maybe you.
I won't either. No, I won't either. I wish I could be on that webcam for 200 years from now.
Yeah, who knows? Well, it was great talking and seeing you again, and I know you'll keep doing this, so I'll wait for the 9th one, and I'll call you up.
That sounds good. I look forward to that, Sam. It was good to talk to you. It's always the best.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
All right.
So long.
Okay. See ya.